Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the nice and kind introduction. And one thing you did not say is that I'm an old friend and a collaborator of the Institute with a big pleasure and honor. And it's really always great to be here to meet students, new faces, some familiar faces. So after this presentation you have heard that was very thank you, nice and optimistic, and it dealt with very soft parts of cultural diplomacy with arts, which is the integral part of it. I'm afraid that I will have to speak on some more harsh parts of the project of cultural diplomacy. The topic I was given, in fact, was very vague, and it's not easy to structure the few minutes of presentation on the vague topic. I was told I should say something on the cultural diplomacy from the European perspectives, today's challenges, and path ahead, which is, you would agree, I think, very vague. Now, the title of this whole conference, of this whole project, is Utilizing Cultural Diplomacy to Develop Economic and Cultural Bridges. So economy is always connected with cultural affairs. Why I will try to, and how I will try to explain a little bit later, in my opinion. But definitely, economy is heart of development. And since you heard that I served for several years in UN, and I was part of multilateral affairs for over 18 years, we always have this mantra: there's no stability and security without development, no development without human rights, and no human rights without political stability. So it's these three pillars. I see you are aware of it. It goes around, but it's true. It becomes a phrase, but really it is true. So economy is also in the heart of this cooperation and always interlinked with culture. Now, trying to say something from the European perspective, of course, I come from a country, from Croatia, that is European country, but I'm not entitled to speak on behalf of Europe. I'm entitled to speak on behalf of my country and myself. But since in Europe, as usual, we don't have a common position in many issues, this is also Europe, but Europe is more than that. So take this as cum grano salis, as the old Romans would say. So utilizing cultural diplomacy to develop economic and cultural bridges. It requires first and foremost to try to define cultural diplomacy, and I gave up this effort many years ago. Not that I don't have my opinion, I do, but it is, there are so many ways, there are so many possible definitions that I think each and every of you should have and does have her or his own definition. And I think each and every of them is valid enough. So when you put it together, you get what we really need. We all agree that cultural diplomacy is, per definition, soft power, in contradiction to hard powers, which we are facing not from time to time, but daily, which we are facing in everyday life, which we read in newspapers, see on TV, if your generation watches TV. It's mostly other gadgets that you use. So hard power is always present, but soft power is necessary. Soft power in the times of globalization. Some years ago, I was here still in the old building, and there was a discussion on globalization. The opinions were, of course, very much divided. And now we read very often that the globalization is over, that with the crisis we had since 2008 or since a year or two ago, since refugee migration crisis, with all these challenges, not problems, because in Europe we don't have problems, we have just challenges. With the refugees, with populisms, with nationalisms, the globalization is over. That is very, very, how the Germans would say, oberflächig. That is really skin deep, because the globalization is a process you may like or you may dislike, but it is going on. It is not a flat road. It has ups and downs, but we all do live in a globalized world, which is more globalized than ever. So even the bad things, even the things that we condemn, like populisms and nationalisms and xenophobia and everything else, that always existed, are now globalized. That's the only difference. So we have to adapt that we live in that globalized world, which is exacerbated by the new technologies, by IT technologies, by 4.0, by digitalization, by whatever. So it is not disappearing, it is speeding up in a new circumstances. Now, connection with economic and social development. I have had opportunity on several occasions to participate in conferences which either my embassy organized or my Chamber of Commerce or some ministries. The title was very, very often how to do business with Croatia. I'm not going to say that even I don't know the answer. I do know the answer. But the people who were given presentations usually started by presenting facts, by presenting figures, by presenting new legal regulations, new legal framework, whatever, and the reaction was lukewarm. They said, well, it's fine, but we can read it online. We can find the sources ourselves. We can Google it. So why does it matter? Because doing business with Croatia, with any of your countries, is not only doing business in a strict economic manner. It is dealing with the culture. With the culture not only in the sense of arts, which is perfect, but the culture is way of living. And the way of living is way of production. And way of production reflects mentality. It reflects how people act, how people interact, how people react, and why. And if you come to a country as an investor, I hope some of you with these startups or whatever will be engaged in such projects as well, because they are lucrative. You must know how to do business. Of course, you must know what the tax system is. You must know the income system. You must know GDP. You must know all these economical categories. But you must know how and why people do business, what is their historical and cultural pattern, and how you act in this environment. And that is the role of cultural diplomacy, in my opinion, in that respect. There are others, but particularly here. So I'm supposed to say something about cultural diplomacy in Europe in particular, because cultural diplomacy, as we heard in Israel, Uganda, is very much present, required. But in Europe, when we say Europe, mostly EU and similar countries, these are countries of immigration. And immigration is not always only refugees. It is a logical, normal flow of migrations. And migrations are mostly socially and economically rooted. So even if you stop all the conflicts, which we will not achieve, you will not maybe have classical refugees, but you will have migrations. And you have to adapt to that flow of people moving from one place to another, bringing their own culture and trying to adapt to a new environment. And that is the challenge in Europe. That is the challenge for both sides, for those people who come here and for the people who live here and have people coming in, moving in. So let's put aside for a moment classical refugees. As my predecessor said, most of them find a refuge in the neighboring countries, one way or another. That happened in my country during the war 25 years ago. We had internally displaced persons, and we had hundreds of thousands of refugees from Bosnia and Herzegovina, neighboring country. So we were the first refuge for them, as well as it happens in all other countries. So let's try to concentrate to the classical migrants, people looking for a better life, people looking for jobs, people looking for educational possibilities, chances, whatever. And in Germany, you have, how many? 900,000 2 years ago. I think every year it is several 100,000. Okay, it's a country of 82.5 million people, but the structure is, of course, changing. Migrants tend to come to the countries with a higher social, economic, financial, educational, and other standards. That's normal. So these countries are under pressure. And I speak it from the perspective of a country that traditionally has been the country of emigration, not immigration. So we have a feeling, we have sentiments for both sides, not equally. But we know how it feels to be in a country where you come for the first time, where you don't know the language, where you are a foreigner. Even if we are white and we don't look like foreigners, still the Germans would recognize we are not Germans before we start speaking. When we start speaking, of course. On the other hand, we have migrations within the country. And the key point is knowing each other. In my country, we have parts of the country which are extremely open, because we have always had foreigners. We have always had people coming from different countries, tourists, scientists, whoever, workers. And we are used to living, to mixing with each other. We have parts of the country which were, for geographical and historical reasons, closed. And for them, foreigner was a danger. It was usually foreign army, occupation, bad vibrations. So in these different parts of the country, we feel that at the first glance, you have open people accepting each and every of you friendly. And you have some parts of mentality, let's wait and see who they really are. If you see the political situation in Germany in the last 2 or 3 years, you also had a very much developed welcoming culture for the refugees and for the migrants in the biggest parts of the country. And you had movements like Pegida, like some anti-immigrant movements, mostly in the parts of the country where they never experienced inflow of foreign workers or foreigners. So in the western parts or the southern part, where traditionally you have people from all parts of the world working, including my country, the welcoming culture was overwhelming. In some secluded parts of east of the country, you had these movements, anti-immigrants, and they have less than 1% of foreigners. Where you have 30%, 35%, the situation is much softer. Wouldn't one expect it to be the other way around? No, because people know each other. And that is culture, and that is the role of culture diplomacy, knowing each other. Because if you know somebody, you will see that each and every of us has the same needs, has the same goodwill and the same rate of needs, low criminality or whatever, so there are not big differences. On the other hand, when you as an immigrant come to a certain country, you must show some basic things. Respect. Respect for the country you came to, respect for the culture, respect for the population, and goodwill to integrate, not to assimilate. You are not invited to lose your identity, but you are invited to respect the host, to respect what this country is, or any other country is offering to you. So the elements of integration is, there are many of them. First and foremost is the language. Of course, everybody speaks English now, particularly here, but that's not enough. In order to be part of the society, you should at least understand and speak some of the language. So that was the challenge, and that was the big programs and projects of German government and other governments, including my own, to try to enable the people who came to the country to learn the language. In Germany, it was not easy because German language is not that easy, but believe me, in Croatia it's worse because my language is horrible. It's very difficult to learn, but people are making progress. Now, we are exposed to this mixture and the flows of people from one part of the world to another more and more. It is a process that will not stop. It is a process that existed since always, but some parts of the country, people were so poor that they couldn't afford to move to another place. They were forcibly removed from some places, but a logical economic migration, that was out of the reach. Now, when you see these smugglers in the Mediterranean, there are people who can pay 200, 300 or 4,000 euros for a person to be transferred across the Mediterranean. It is illegal, it is bad, it is not good, we all know that. But 20 years ago, people would not have these financial means, which means that it's not, I don't say it's being better, but the situation has changed in the sense that we will have this flow of people from the poorer parts of the world to the developed parts of the world. It will not be stopped. So we should use tools that we have, and cultural diplomacy is one of the most efficient. Knowing each other is art, is music that always connects people, except in some cases, where you have a misuse of music for political purposes. It is arts, it is paintings, it is drawings, it is literature, if you can understand the language. So arts connects people. That is first and foremost. Other ways and means of knowing each other is habits, patterns, way of life. And when you know each other, you are much more close and much more connected than you think you are. Take an example you could read yesterday in newspapers. What happened in Nuremberg, here in Bavaria, in Germany? There was a guy, age 16, from Afghanistan, and his parents were refused the asylum. So he was supposed to leave the country. So the police entered the school, dragged him out. He didn't show any resistance. But 300 students came and blocked the police. Said, this is our guy. It shows something. Now, I will not elaborate further on that, but it shows how the society reacts, how the integration can go deep or does go deep. I'm not challenging the decision of any country's authorities, including first and foremost the German, to act accordingly. I'm just trying to picture how the society reacts, how the people who were sitting next to each other feel this is one of us. If they showed him, if they showed the photo 2 years ago, they would say, he's not one of us. He looks different. He is different. But after 2 years in the same class, he's one of us. Now, we are all under influence of, among other things, movie industry. You see, I avoid the word Hollywood. And other industries, but when we see this integration and all this mixing up, we are under bombardment of the information from one part of the world. In the United States, of course, there was a melting pot. It is not. It is the pride of that country. That is how the country was created. But it is not always typical for other parts of the world. It is not typical for Europe. Because European countries were not a melting pot, but they were a mixing of different cultures, which is something completely different. If you come to a structured society, a culture, in any of European countries, Germany, France, Italy, you have a well-established culture, you have a well-established history, and you as a foreigner have to adapt, to integrate. You influence, and you are influenced. But in America, the melting pot worked in a different way. I'm not saying better or worse, just different. So when you decide to live in a structured society, you have to act accordingly. That is the difference. Just be aware of that. I'm not giving marks. This is good, this is bad. No, everything is good. Now, the last part of the title I was given was Path Ahead. Path Ahead includes, first and foremost, technology. You noticed how much technology develops, how it jumps from one year to another, how many gadgets are being invented or applications every year. Some years ago, my children told me, you know, I think we are getting old. And they were 20 and something then. I said, how you mean? Of course you are getting old, that's good. No, but you know, these young guys, they are 14, 15, they can use these gadgets and I don't follow it. I don't understand it very much. They are faster than I am. These Game Boys, that was my sky limit. Now they have hundreds of others. So I'm afraid I'm being run over by time. So we agreed that it will be worse. And that is your destiny as well. It means you will be able to follow technology to a certain extent. You will be run over by time, don't worry. But it's not the end of the world, it's not tragedy. You should just be adaptive enough to use and utilize all the technological means and goods that you will be faced with. But if we concentrate only on technology, that is not enough. You will have the influence of technology not in your free time, not in your communication skills or whatever. You will have the influence of technology in everyday work. Robotics, digitalization, a lot of professions that we grew up with will disappear. Will practically disappear, which means that all of us will have to adapt to some new realities. Some manual skills will disappear. They will not be required. It brings dangers, of course, but it is inevitable. So this development in technology must be balanced with the culture and education, first and foremost. Because if you use technology only without knowledge, without culture background, without education in humanities, you will act like robots. Sooner or later, you will have your physical appearance, your biological needs, but basically you will just serve as a robot. On the other hand, if you just learn about humanities, beaux arts, if you learn about culture, which is beautiful, you will lay back behind because you will not be able to use technology. Somebody else will, and you will be left on the margin. So we must put this in balance. And whose task it is? Education. Educational system, and let's not be naive. It doesn't come spontaneously. There are some mechanisms that ensure it, or have to ensure it. And these are still the states. The states, so we may say that we don't like politicians, And I'm very proud if somebody recognizes that we diplomats are not, per definition, politicians. I may like them or I may not like them in any country. But state, politicians do run the state. And state is still indispensable, at least for the social services like education, like health systems, like many others. It is very nice to believe, but very naive to believe that without state, now in at this stage of development, we can organize ourselves as a community. That would be very nice, but at the time being, it's not realistic. So let's try to make state influence as positive, as balanced as possible. Education is one of the tasks. So let's try to have balance between broader knowledge, humanities, history, literature, arts, geography, of course, whatever, and technological part of it. If you ask my father, he would say, you don't learn enough mathematics. Of course we don't. But if you asked my late mother, she would say they don't know as many poets as we did. And that is also true. So let's make a balance, because we have examples in the countries, and some big and rich countries where the people have very poor basic knowledge. I'm not singling out anybody. But they're perfect for manipulation. You just do your job. You do your 8 hours, and that's fine. Don't think about it. Keine Überlegung. Just do what you are told. Perfect. Let's make balance. And that's where I plan to stop, because I think our time is running out. I'm open and free for any question you may have, for any discussion. This is just briefly, because this topic is a never-ending story, and each of you, and including me, I'm still young enough, will be faced with these challenges. Together we can achieve a better world. Thank you. From Croatia and Germany, in many senses. First, you have this formal and official level. As the embassy, you organize some culture, artistic events, be it concerts, be it literature readings or exhibitions in the embassy or in some other places in town. Or you support the artists. You come to an open exhibition, say a few words, say, we as a state are behind you. We appreciate what you are doing. We don't want to influence you. No central committee, no. Just know that we know what you are doing and appreciate it very much. On the other hand, you speak to German partners and others who live here, saying, listen, we as a country have a rich history, a rich culture. We are famous here for good working skills, people working here for 50, 60 years. We are famous for tourism, and by the way, you are all cordially invited to spend vacation in Croatia. Yeah. I know some will. It's a beautiful country. So it's not only that. It's not only good football or handball players. It's much more than that. We have culture, and we want to present you this culture, because with that you will understand us better. Why are we sometimes hard in some things? Why we are tolerant? Why we are not? I'm not saying this is good or bad. Just understand it, and with understanding, everything will be much better. Of course, it goes the other way around, from Germany to Croatia. So that is. I'm trying to and yesterday I was in Hessen. I was having some presentations and speech in the parliament. So I tried to say, listen, only in Berlin we have 5 opera singers. We have conductors, we have painters, we have 2 of our most famous film regisseurs living here, working here. We have the chief professor of Swedish language at Humboldt University, is my neighbor from Zagreb. So we have all kinds of everything. Many of your countries do have the same. So it's not exclusivity. But first notion of my country is beautiful sea, swimming, summer, holiday, music, everything's fine. Good wine, good. But we have much more than that. And that is the role of culture diplomacy. As a diplomat, you can do a lot, but there are many other means, because people tend not to believe to diplomats, because they say officially they lie for their country. We don't lie. We sometimes stress some things more and some less, but we don't lie. Multiculturalism is a notion that we also have to define, because we had this wave of multiculturalism 20, 25, 30 years ago, where, for example, we tried to present different cultures that live in our neighborhood. Is that multiculturalism? Yes. But multiculturalism is much more than that. Now, I heard some very serious and good German politicians saying some years ago, multiculturalism is tot. It is dead, doesn't exist anymore. Depends how you define it. If you define that you have all cultures living here being equal and endanger each other, then it's dead. But if you have multiculturalism knowing each other, then it's very much alive. So depends on the definition. If you have a feeling that you're endangered as a host country, that your Leitkultur is endangered, you will have problems. So if you come as a foreigner and try to impose your culture to local community, they will say that's fine, but listen, don't cross the red line. Let us live our way of life. You came to my country, not vice versa. So multiculturalism, yes. Answering the multiculturalism in Germany, you should ask the Germans. I'm still not entitled to mix up, but that is my feeling. Yes, they are very tolerant, very open, but it is a two-way road. It is a two-way road.